Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by
Ian Bruce, Patrick Kane,
and Adam Scott. Hello.
You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. So yeah, we managed to get to episode 100. Wow, how did that happen?
Yes, well done, listener. Thanks for getting us there.
Yeah.
That went quickly.
Thanks, Redders.
So, yeah.
Thanks for listening.
And all the rest of you, of course. So I just thought we I don't know, we had a few ideas for what to do for this, and I think we all kind of settled on sort of maybe trying to predict what might happen by the time we get to episode 200.
Anything that doesn't require any prep.
Yeah. We were going to make stuff up, I think was the podcast warm-up. We're always sort of talking about things that are...
You've done prep, haven't you, Howard? You've got a list.
Rob's got notes.
I would feel irresponsible not to.
A girly swat.
Look,
Jesus.
To be honest, I only...
Show your notes.
Hold on. I've got notes as well. They're in here.
There aren't many. But no, I mean, we talk about VR and stuff. I mean, we might as well start there, really. I mean, how far along do we think we're going to be with VR in 2 years? I mean, we're talking about the platforms launching next year in earnest. How far along do we think that's going to be? You know,
2 years' time, I think we're probably still going to be largely in the enthusiast sort of space. In that, I don't think it's going to magically go mainstream in 2 years. I think 5 to 10 years is what people's kind of realistic expectations are for it's becoming sort of more of a mainstream thing. But in 2 years' time, you're going to essentially have things like app stores are going to be open, so you're going to have marketplaces existing. That's going to be a big deal because that obviously incentivizes developers to, if there's a platform to publish things on, that's a very different thing. But hardware-wise, I expect we'll have seen the second generation 2 years from the launch of the first one. We'll definitely have seen a second hardware set launched by then.
By Oculus.
Well, that's what Oculus have said, yes.
And
so it will be out, or we'll be talking about it coming out?
No, think about like where like the hardware side of VR headsets come from. It's very much tied to the smartphone industry. Smartphone development happens a lot quicker than practically anything, really. And if you think about like Samsung has basically a 6-month product cycle, where they'll bring out a new major product, which will often have a much higher resolution screen. And that's obviously a huge part of VR. So you can expect to see the resolution being upgraded in that time, definitely, like at least once. So expect like the second generation of Oculus Rift to be out 2 years from the first one, absolutely. Yeah. If Oculus are to be believed anyway, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't. And you're going to get a lot of people who will wait for that second generation, because it's also going to be more accessible, I think. If you wait till the second generation, you're going to have a huge amount of content that's going to be easier to play on cheaper hardware. You're going to have obviously the benefits of the newer hardware, better resolution, better tracking, etc.
And of course, more software support.
More software.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. Is you're going to have a lot more games 2 years from now. And there's already a hell of a lot. And I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that there's going to be a lot of new development, a lot of people new to development starting because of VR. I think you're going to find a lot of people start developing for it who maybe haven't had interest in developing before. So that's going to be really interesting as well. But yeah, 2 years from now, I don't think it's going to be a massively mainstream thing. 10 years from now, I do. What
about PlayStation VR though? I mean, they're going to be pushing that like fuck, aren't they? Yeah.
But sorry. When I say mainstream, I'm talking about every home. I'm talking about iPhone. I'm talking about. Talking about VCR. I'm talking about the standard in home. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that kind of the more kind of mainstream use in the PlayStation as well. I think I don't know. It's really hard to tell. It's hard to predict something that's moving so quickly.
Well, we don't have to just talk about predictions. We can also talk about things that we hope might happen in 2 years.
Well, I was actually going to say, in terms of what I think will come in the next sort of 2 to 5 years in game development, the things that I think you'll see that will change. One thing I think will be absolutely massive, and I think you'll see more and more of in titles is user created content. I think that Steam and these various platforms, they've all worked out that there's a hell of a lot of revenue to be generated by having users making their own content and selling it to other users. And I think you're going to see more of that kind of more of those kind of communities around gaming. I think I don't know. I think that's one of the biggest things that's going to be different from the last 3 years anyway.
Because that's kind of like the Minecraft sort of angle, isn't it? Because that's a very sort of creationary sort of platform. I mean, Adam, your kids.
Well, but it's more like the modding community, isn't it? I mean, it's more like what Steam tried to do with the Skyrim mods a while ago in monetizing it and making it into a business. Yeah, and that has to be handled carefully. The user created content stuff, because of we saw what happened when they tried to just bulldoze it into the stage of, hey, all that stuff you have for free, let's start paying for it. You don't mind it? Well, actually, yes, we fucking do. And the thing is that the games and the communities where the modding is rife, a lot of them are things like, a lot of them are in the RPG areas. That the Bethesda games, the BioWare games are modded quite heavily, and those communities are used to. They have a huge amount of people that are doing it for free and doing it because they love doing it and want to share it with the community and get the kudos for doing it. And I think you're probably right, Pat, that their first attempt was aborted somehow, because I think it was handled pretty badly, if I'm honest. But clearly the business people out there have got an appetite to see what we can do, and there are people out there who do want to monetize their product, and why shouldn't they? I mean, people are putting stuff in and putting their time in. My concern is, as we joked about, $99 for horse vaginas. And it's, I know Ian got it and enjoyed it, and he's still probably enjoying it as we speak. But the thing is that every time you monetize something like that, unless it's handled properly, you open the floodgates to the people who are trying to get the next Candy Crush out there, and will do loads of crap. So I thought, if it's going to be a successful model, because of the people that will be sold to are the people that are already used to having high quality stuff for free, then there need to be the tools in there to control the content correctly, so that we're not flooded with absolute garbage and expected to pay for it, and with very limited access to refunds.
I haven't actually played it myself, but apparently the tools for Arc are
Yeah,
really good.
They're in
and the content for Ark is incredibly good.
the tools for Ark.
As in the user-made content, sorry.
Yeah, by all accounts, it is. The tools for Ark are included in the UE4 engine. They're one of the tabs once you've installed it.
Yeah.
So there's a great opportunity to create your own stuff for that. Yep. Carry on.
Cool. Okay, I've got one. Star Citizen still won't be out.
For the love of
I fucking knew it. I wish I'd laid a bet on that you were going to say that.
I didn't even write that one down, but after what I read today, I'm willing to put that one
We'll come
down.
on to that later. Kind of depends which bias you want to suck up to, doesn't it? But I think you're wrong. I think 2 years there will be some Star Citizen content out, but that's a discussion in and of itself.
Is that the best you can come up with, Rob? Come on.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
What's your prediction for the future? Come on.
There will still be another Assassin's Creed game.
Well, in 2 years' time, there will have been two more. There will one next year.
So I'm wrong straight away.
Probably.
No, there probably would have been 4 by then.
Yeah.
One thing that I would like to hope, though, is that the proliferation of VR will lead to less fucking open world games.
No.
I would like to be more interested in what is in front of me than what is 100 miles over there.
More story-based, linear, driven.
And being able to experience more games like I consume other things like movies and TV shows that don't take up like months of my life.
This is the thing. This was something I was gonna come on to, and I mentioned this the other week. Is that I don't have a problem with the proliferation of open world games. I just wish there was some content that was half the content for maybe 2/3 of the price. I wouldn't mind paying 2/3 of the price for half the size of the game, but I think there is a real market there, and I'm hoping, this is one of my hopes for the next 2 years, is that someone will get wise and realise that they can produce content that takes 10 to 15 hours to do, of high quality, tighter narrative stuff that doesn't require you to wander around, so that people that like me can enjoy high quality content as well.
I'm not quite clear how you think that would be funded, because tighter narrative stuff. So, if it was tighter narrative, would you be happy with a text-based narrative? I don't mean a text adventure. I mean characters interacting, and the narrative is textual and it's not voice acted.
Finding notes, finding books, finding
partly.
graffiti.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I mean, but the point is, it's ideally what I'm after is I don't want to, the high quality releases all seem to be if we want to charge $60 for this product, we've got to make it at least 100 hours.
Well, it's funny you should say that, really, because I think open world games are actually the very best environment for user created content. Like Rust is a really good example.
Yeah.
Like Minecraft is a really perfect example.
I don't want the death of open world games. I just wish there were some games that weren't open world, and I wish that there were. Well, I know there are some games that aren't open world, but I wish that there were games with really high production values that weren't just 4 or 5 hours little adventures. And I know there are some, but I guess my real thing is the big tentpole releases are all these massive sprawling things that are, if you want to see everything, it's going to take you 120 hours or whatever. And I know a lot of that. Yes, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. But I kind of think, well, if you could make games that were a little tighter, I don't necessarily mean corridor shooters or whatever, but games that were tighter, less sprawling, less. Let's just cater for every direction a player might want to go into. Yeah. Then you wouldn't. There's a huge amount of time spent developing that content that people might see.
Yeah.
And I think you could more effectively use a lot of resources to produce a content where 80% of the players experienced it. Yes, they can make choices, maybe put their RPG elements to do things in a different way, but a tighter set of games that didn't cost you 90 million to produce, or it cost you less, and therefore you wouldn't have to sell it for $60. You could sell it for $40, or
I think I think both of you will. I think both of you may find that with VR, if you don't mind much shorter experiences. I think you may get a couple of hour experience that's a tightly focused narrative thing, but immediately more immersive because you're there in VR in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that people need to be aware of is it may cost you £20 for this 2 hour experience. I don't know that it will. The pricings of these things hasn't really been released yet, but if I think Hollywood will get into VR in the next 2 years and start producing stuff that is exceptional and that will make people buy the kit just to watch this thing. But I think the smaller players will also produce things that will be engaging in VR, and not necessarily games, but just experiences. You like a ride along in a cop car, for example, as part of a Hollywood movie setup. That could be great.
Yeah,
you're not really doing anything. You're just in the back of the car with Jake Gyllenhaal in End of Watch and stuff. That would have been fantastic in VR. Jesus.
Yeah.
So I think. I think my point is, if you're happy to have it as less of a game and more of an experiential thing, I hate that word. I think VR may provide it for you in the next couple of years. If you want to be more actively involved in the nitty-gritty of the choices that you have to make, I hope the gaming industry can provide that for you. I don't think they will. I think it's gone too far now down the rabbit hole of...
But I think they're missing a trick there, because yes, I do want a game.
I
I do want to
agree,
be involved.
absolutely.
I want to be able to be in control of something. I want to be able to use my skills and my choice and my strategic nous to make decisions that influence my gameplay. That's why I play games. I like doing them. But I've never experienced VR, so I have no idea how that's going to change my outlook. But so all I can really talk about is what I want. But I don't see why. I don't see why everything has to be this huge, great thing, just because there is a huge market for that. But I've been looking around, and I can also see a lot of people mirroring my things, like, oh God, it's another fucking 80-hour monster. When the hell am I going to get time? The problem is the world is filling up with gamers that grew up and have been growing up for a long time playing games, who are now having children and running out of time and can't afford to spend all the time doing this. And I think as that market grows, the demand will be there for games that are shorter and more concise. And actually, that's really what I want.
The thing that I don't really understand about the open world game saying, it's 80 hours or 120 if you go to all the places, probably 60 of those hours is going between places. So, once you've seen the trees and the pretty sun through the leaves of the trees, all you're doing is waiting to get to the next bit.
Weren't you just talking...
Like you're commuting
which
between
is why
areas.
I appreciate...
You're commuting in a video game.
But hang on, hang on a sec. Weren't you just talking about Mad Max the other week? Where you were saying, oh yes, but when you get to the sub area, of course you're not going to be ready for it. You have to go back and do the side missions.
No,
why do I have to go back and do the
that.
side missions?
Yes,
I know you don't, and that's fine, because you're the market those games are aimed at.
I'm having a go at the industry that are promoting these 120 hours games.
Yeah.
Right? When they say they're 120 hours, if you took the travel out from these games, they would be 60 hours. And if you quartered... So them saying we have to produce a 120-hour game and then sell it for £60... Well, no, you've produced a 60-hour game and padded these fucking travel times on. I have no problem with the travel times.
That's the worst.
For me, that's the biggest... If they could just reduce the travel shit and make the games... I think even if they did that, just removed all the travel, an open world game would be heading towards what would be exciting for you.
But then what would it be? How would it be an open world game? I mean, the point is, if it's an open world game, is the fact that it's a vast area that you can traverse and explore, isn't it?
Can I just say one thing that may affect the way that you experience open world games in VR, which may massively affect it, is that a lot of developers are going to be using teleportation as locomotion to combat VR sickness. In that you won't have to do a lot of pressing W to get around VR games. That means that a lot of developers are going to design worlds to be navigated in that way. So not loads of really long paths that you just have to hold a button down for it and wait to get to the other end of. There's going to be a lot of directing the player's attention to interesting environmental things and getting them to teleport themselves to them. There's going to be a lot of that in VR.
Doesn't that somewhat defeat the point of having an open world game? Because then aren't you effectively just moving from one small area to another, like you have been doing for decades?
But that's what an open world game is anyway. You start at a castle and you can go anywhere, but actually you're just going to the next castle.
Yeah.
Or there's like it's like the wheel it's like a wheel of things around you.
Yeah.
That's an open world game. You start here and you can go anywhere around you, but the points you can actually go and do stuff are spokes on a wheel. So you can either spend that time travelling along the spokes, or you can get a taxi to take you from one castle to the next castle.
Exactly.
The open world bit is, to my mind, you can go anywhere, that castle up there, you can go and do stuff in that castle. You don't have to spend an hour and a half walking to that castle. You could just get in a cab and move. It becomes this
some
sprawling,
cases,
there's lots of different things going on.
Yeah.
That's to me what an open world game is. You can go and do
in some cases, you do need that journey. Like Journey is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus, a perfect example. Those games, the actual moving from A to B, the moving the player to the destination.
Would you call those open world games?
But there's nothing wrong with a game being about a journey.
Well, that was an open world game.
Look at Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. You know, that's one of the most marvelous journeys I've ever done. But that's not an open world game.
No.
You know, I don't have I guess my issue is that I don't have an issue so much with travelling and experiencing and looking at all these wonderful things and exploring. I have a problem with the fact that you as a player are bombarded by crap that you have to do to fill up your time while you're travelling from time to time. The prime example is you look at the Assassin's Creed or even a Far Cry map, a newbie game, and you open up and it's just Icon City. You know? Go and do this. Go and have that. Here's a challenge.
Yeah.
Go and do a race. Do a thing. Great, fine. But aren't I supposed to be saving the fucking world or something?
Yeah.
Why have I got time to do all this shit?
Yeah.
You know?
They do a good job of that in Arkham Knight, actually. As soon as it actually becomes sort of time sensitive, they shut everything off, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes sense, because when you're on the way to one thing, there's obviously this huge catastrophe going on, but it's also like there's this other shit going on that's trying to attack you, and everything feels like it's in your face.
Anyway,
so it doesn't.
My point is, I'm not trying to say that
like
open world games have got to go or they've got to change, but I think that you can try and get a tighter, smaller experience out of games that are designed as an open world game, and you can do it, but the games are designed and paced so that in most of these games that I've done, there is some kind of level progression or skill unlock or whatever, you know, and the whole point of playing, not the whole point, but a considerable point of playing it is that you grind stuff, you get skills, you unlock all these wonderful abilities that you can do, and that allows you to play the game differently. And a lot of the pacing is of the title is on the expectation that you'll tend to spend a certain amount of time doing certain things. You know, Dragon Age Inquisition has got its power requisitions that you've got to get to before you can unlock the next part of the story. You know, you've got to go to your hub stuff and grind side missions before you be ready to do the next stuff. So you have this kind of artificial barriers coming in there. All I'm saying is, I would like some games where you didn't have those artificial barriers, and if you wanted to go from A to B and experience the whole thing and enjoy it, you can do. And it's paced with that in mind.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of games I think, but kind of there aren't many of them around at the moment, or not as many as I would like.
I'll tell you one that is coming out, or that I hope at least will be like that. Deus Ex. I don't think Deus Ex is going to be an open world game. I very much hope not.
No.
Because I think what they'll be emphasising in that will be replayability over everything else, because that's how those games work. I don't replay them, but that's how I play games.
But there is my beloved Mass Effect series. One of the things I like about that is replaying it, doing things differently, and I can do that because I can do the experience within a certain amount of time, a doable amount of time. You know, if the game takes me a minimum of 40, 50 hours to do one playthrough, I'm not going to replay that. I'm never going to replay it, you know, and replaying it in some of these games, doing things differently and doing a completely different class, having completely different skills and doing lots of stuff, it's kind of the joy for me for some of these games. But I can't do it if your expected travel distance or completion time is upwards of 40 to 50 hours. It's just not going to happen.
A lot of these games do have fast travel options.
Yeah, but it's not.
Just saying.
It's not so much the travel that's the issue. I get Ian's point, but it's more the pacing of the content. And the skills that you have to get to so you can get the next bit without getting your fucking ass kicked.
Yeah, Mad Max definitely feels like, I'm doing all this, but I have to do this because I'm not going to be able to get through it.
I actually quite enjoy going around beautifully crafted worlds. I spent a long time in Dragon Age Inquisition wandering around looking how beautiful everything was, but I found myself doing all these, chasing down shards and unlocking codex entries and helping random people.
Yeah, they Ubisofted it.
Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah, I know, like, I kind of want to see what's up there, so I'll go and do it. Yeah, they did Ubisoft it, which is a bit irritating. But, I've kind of actually started playing that again, and I'm going, fuck all that, I'm just going to see how far I get just playing the main story and do the actual minimum. Yeah. I'm going to get myself up to the minimum level and just do it.
Literally, the last three lands in that game, they might as well have used as DLC because I didn't even need to do them. I could have just gone straight to the end.
Speaking of Deus Ex...
Well, don't give them ideas.
Speaking of Deus Ex, that does bring me on to the other thing that I'm kind of hoping for, and it's an old one, but I'm kind of hoping that the amount of vitriol we as gamers have got against the whole pre-order culture and everything else that goes against it actually sinks home in the next 2 years, so they stop trying to fuck us up the arse.
We might as well just cover that right now while we're there, because basically the augment your pre-order marketing thing, the internet won basically.
Yay.
And that's no longer happening.
Yay, interwebs.
I'm glad we flew the flag for that. And apparently though, the thing is, no one's getting it 4 days early, but anyone that pre-ordered it or buys it on day one gets all the things that they were going to get, if it unlocked all 4 tiers.
What a humiliating capitulation, and well deserved.
The thing is as well though, the only reason they made a fuss and sort of actively said we're cancelling it is because they knew that they'd fucked up, and it hadn't worked. It clearly hadn't worked. They'd never updated the website. It was only ever on tier 1. They basically made a load of noise about it, I think, in an effort to appease the fans and get more pre-orders in. Which,
Good luck with that.
So games in the future. What do you guys think will come when we see the end of this kind of current trend of like space simulators, which we're seeing loads of now? What do you think will come next for the kind of PC market?
Shared worlds. I don't mean mean Second Life, but I mean Minecraft is already doing it for me. With a decent Minecraft server, you can go and craft these beautiful things. I don't necessarily mean going and building things, but going and experiencing things with other people.
Right.
So I'd like to see stuff used for education like that. So kids in a part of the world that are never going to go to another part of the world can go and see another part of the world. Not necessarily in VR, just as a shared... I'd like to use... What I'm trying to say is, I'd like to see the tech and the incredible people we have involved in gaming doing something slightly more bloody constructive with it than just producing another fucking Assassin's Creed or another Star Wars Battlefront, The Force Awakens 2, whatever it is. I think there's a lot of people, and they're never going to do it because it's all about money, but I think if just a few of them did, and they started producing these things that could make things better or make the world more of a village. When the internet kicked off, it was, we're a global village and rah-rah, and eventually we all formed our cliques and all of that went away. Why can't we do that with gaming? And specifically VR, why can't we go into it thinking, well, we'll do all this great stuff, and instead of it being, well, I've got the Rift and I've got the Vive, and it being a console war, it would be nice for developers and the industry to work towards a common goal to make me be able to go with Adam and Rob and sit in a bar in New York and do this podcast in VR.
Yeah.
And people would go past, we'd hear the sounds, there'd be a cab, it would rain, the friends would go past. So we would do all that, and it would feel like that. And we would go away thinking, well, we had a podcast, and we did it in New York. I know it's not the same, but it would be a thing for us to do. And that's a very trivial thing to do with it, but there could be a lot more that you do with it as well.
Have you guys seen the Oculus Toybox demo?
Yes.
So Oculus have been using these public demos, which basically put two people in VR in the same room together, represented as avatars with virtual hands, and they just basically give them like a load of kind of toys and things,
awesome.
Fire catapults at each other's faces.
Just a bunch of interactive objects basically to play with. So they can, there's all sorts of kind of particle effects and stuff going off. One of the players actually even shrinks the other player.
Yeah, I saw that just then.
The
That's why I
scale
laughed at.
completely changes down. But yeah, like I think that is going to be, it's, there's so few, games which have, kind of VR and have like a representation of the player. I've only actually kind of experienced it very, very briefly in a lobby of VR carts on the Gear VR. But basically, in this lobby, loading lobby, the other players are there, sitting there in their cars, but they look over, and one of them nods to me, and I nod back, and I realise that I've just nodded to someone on the other side of the world. And I think there's going to be a huge amount of magical moments generated by that very simple thing in VR in multiple situations where people, as Ian said, on the complete other side of the world, actually essentially experiencing being in the same room as someone else very, very far away and interacting with them. And that's going to cause a lot of magic moments, I think.
Or we go and sit on top of the pyramids. There was that film with the guy who played Darth Vader, Hayden Christensen. Jumpers. Jumpers.
Jumpers.
Yeah,
I think it was
where they
Jumpers.
could just go and be anywhere on the planet and do stuff and see things.
Yeah.
And I would like. It's not going to happen in 2 years, but I would like to think that's going to happen in the next 10 years, where you can get a group of people together and say, right, what do you want to do today? Let's go and walk. Let's go and walk through the outback. Let's go and find a kangaroo in the outback, and you might walk for 2 hours and just see a wallaby or something. But you'd still be there, and it would still feel like it.
Yeah.
And it would be a shared experience, and that's what I'm trying to get at. We have shared experience in games all the time. But they are people dictating to us the experience that we will have, normally. We choose how we play out their experience, but we are dictated by their guidance and direction.
They give us the constraints, yeah.
Yes. If the constraints are, well, what do you want to do today? Then I think that would bring a lot of opportunities and great experiences for people, and not just gamers. And I think that's what I'd like to. I'd like to see more people who aren't gamers embracing the tech that at the moment is producing another Star Wars Battlefront game or another Unity. The tech is there to produce great things that a lot of people could enjoy, but we're still stuck in this rut of we have to flog the gaming horse.
Do you think that like a similar thing will happen with VR that happened with the Wii, and that it brought in a lot of non-gamers into gaming?
I hope not, because look at what happened to the Wii. But
well, they sold a lot of them, to be fair.
They did, but
they're in a lot of people's houses.
Absolutely, but they're only in those houses for Christmas when they get pissed and Nana's round and she starts boxing
do
and
the
collapses.
bowling.
Oh, another comedy trip to the ER.
Yeah. Their attachment ratio for games on those consoles was horrific.
Well,
like
yeah, I mean, I'm not really comparing the tech, but what I mean is because the Wii kind of it introduced a novel interactive interface that gave people who didn't have any experience with these kind of abstract controllers or keyboard and mouse controllers, and it allowed a huge group of people to play games and interact with digital content in a way that they never had before.
I think
and VR is the one of it. Well, the best way of defining what VR is essentially the evolution of computing into something which is more human friendly. It's something which is more designed for intuitive human to computer interface.
I think it will depend on the comfort factor for those people that have never experienced it, because I think I know you're immune to the VR sickness. I know other people who are not.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when the consumer versions of these really hit out, then I'm sure they would tackle that as far as the technology will allow. But there is still,
That's largely down to the developers, though.
Well, it might well be, but then again, that's going to depend on. It's going to depend on someone's tolerance for whatever software someone is exposed to. The fact is, with a Wii, the worst that's going to happen probably is that you're going to drop the controller and it's going to smash a vase, which is unpleasant, but it's not going to, everyone can still have a laugh about it afterwards. If your first experience is someone falling over, tripping over a thing, of throwing up on the floor, probably less of a funny experience for people involved. Now, as I said, I've never experienced the VR.
I don't think that's.
No, that's,
I don't think
that's a bit of a Daily Mail headline. That one.
Yeah, that's a. Yeah, that,
Sorry,
I mean,
that was cutting.
It was.
it's Yeah, I mean the whole kind of nausea thing.
Sorry.
The whole kind of VR sickness thing is like one of the biggest problems in developing games and content for VR. But like, it's very much, like I said, it's very much down to the developers. It's very much down to what sort of content you create.
And the PC you're running it on, and a ton of other things that aren't necessarily down to VR being the problem. It's a hardware problem. The game developer hasn't built the game correctly. That's a problem.
The majority of the kind of more casual, focused designs that I'm seeing popping up don't even contain any locomotion at all. So, like, Ian showed me a bunch of demos, and none of them had any locomotion. I think it was 4 or 5 demos, wasn't it? And it was just it was literally just, if I wanted to move, I just walked around the room. So, and those definitely felt more kind of, easily marketable to a mainstream, to a non-gamer. They would be appealing to a non-gamer, to like your mum, your nan, someone like that would play.
Your mum.
Play these.
I think we've probably put about 100 people through the Vive at work since we've had it, and they have ranged from kids like 6 or 7, and to older people probably in their 60s or 70s, and they've all come out. Nobody's collapsed, nobody's puked, nobody's felt unwell, everybody's just gone, wow. And I find that amazing. I've had no experience of anybody in the Rift or anybody in any VR thing feeling unwell when what they're looking at is produced correctly, the hardware it's running on is up to the job, and the person doing the presentation, or however you want to do it, explaining to them what's going to happen and making sure they don't put them in situations where they're going to have a problem. One of the Vive demos is being underwater, standing on the bow of a ship, and there's fish swimming around you. I have to ask, I feel responsible for people that are going to do that. Do you have a problem with being underwater? Because 2 people have said, yeah, I just don't like that. So they don't get their demo. I could put them in there and they would freak out and go that VR is shit. Or I could just go, right, not going to do
VR
that.
has scarred me
So
forever.
coming back to the original point, then, do you think the conditions you've just outlined, in the fact that the software has to be produced correctly, the hardware has to be up to the job, and those other things, is comparable to someone spending 200 quid in a wee and sticking it under a television?
I don't, not at all. No, absolutely not.
No. What I'm talking about, mate, is I think in the way that the Wii was a more intuitive human to computer interface. VR is the same thing. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's why I think that it will bring in a lot of non-gaming people. Like, I used an example, I think years ago probably, but if you imagine imagine you make a realistic armor style military shooting game. And you make it totally realistic. You have to use omnidirectional treadmills to run around in it. You've got VR headsets on, and you've got proper weighted guns so they feel real, and they've got recoil and everything. And you're running around, and you pit one 13-year-old guy against one SAS guy. If they're playing it that way, the SAS guy is going to win. But if you're playing with a controller, the SAS guy is not going to win. The 13-year-old kid is. So that's what I'm saying about the more kind of natural interface, and how it's hopefully going to bring a lot more people into gaming who would probably not even consider themselves being interested in gaming. Maybe even people who would think gaming is a waste of time. Suddenly you put this headset on them and they understand that there's
some possibilities
there. There's a real value to being able to go somewhere else, to be able to be somewhere else and to do something interesting and engaging. And I think people who have maybe laughed off Xbox, PlayStation, PC games, whatever, may even find something in that experience once they've tried it. And that's obviously still the biggest thing, is that you need to show people.
And to frame this in such a way that it doesn't turn into yet another evangelization of VR, do we think we'll be there in 2 years' time?
Beware.
At that point where
what
people
point?
feel that, where it's really being sold to the consumer.
Well, people feel that already when they get the chance to see it.
Yeah.
So people will be buying it. People will be coughing up for this experience.
I think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You need to try it to buy it. So
Do you think a lot of people will have had that in the next 2 years?
think
then?
10% of
probably
the
a
possible
very-
market will have in the next 2 years.
There's a very good reason for Vive, for Valve having a Steam presence opening up in all these game stores. I'm almost certain that's to do with VR, because you do need to have like some sort of. I mean, they've been sort of travelling around, haven't they, all over America with this kind of mobile bus, letting people try the HTC Vive out.
Yeah, Pat there is referring to the fact that Steam have announced, or Valve have announced, that they are going to have a presence in Game in the UK, GameStop in the US and Canada. And
It's kind of a store within a store sort of situation,
EB
isn't it?
Games as well. They're going to have a presence there. At first, it's just going to be able to it's just going to be there to sell the controller and the Steam Link and the Steam machines that are all going to be starting to roll out via third parties. And they're also going to be selling Steam prepaid cards as well. So.
But yeah, like as I was saying, if you've got that public space, if people have got access to be able to try these things, that's a complete game changer. But I still think in 2 years' time, you're still going to be looking at quite an expensive hardware setup. It's not going to be, VR isn't going to be in the space hardware wise and cost wise that a nan could try it once and go, oh yeah, I'll have that. That would be ridiculous. That would be like your nan buying an iPhone before you do. It's not going to happen. So like in 2 years' time, it's still going to be very much the gamers and the enthusiasts, but I think you're going to see a lot more people pouring in at that moment.
It'll be like the PS1 for consoles, where there had been
very
things
much
before,
so,
but
like-
they were just kind of toys.
Suddenly, gaming's not a geek thing now.
and
It's
now it
for
was,
the living room, and
cool.
now it's like. Now it's something that
and
actually
some
is
people
cool
will get it.
and
I think
it's relevant.
I think clusters of gamers will get it, so there'll be lots of VR content videos online.
Just need to break the back of the VR is the next 3D TV myth, really.
But you don't. I mean, that's so easily dismissed.
Yeah,
it's not.
But
even,
you do if you want to get it out to anyone other than the niche gamers, because
and that's what I think we'll see in the next 2 years. VR becoming more available in the out of home space, because it's at a point, it's mature enough to be available in museums. There was a great thing, or an average thing, at the British National History Museum a few weeks ago. There's a number of different places doing VR type things, but as the tethered experiences like the Vive and the Rift become commercially available, and you don't have to do some amazing things to get hold of them, they will become more embedded in these kinds of things, where you can take the kids and have a go on you can fly a plane, you can do this boat thing, you can go on to the moon and stuff in the science museum. So more people will be exposed to it in an environment where they can see the very best VR that's possible at the time. Whereas at the moment they're limited to shitty cardboard experiences, Google Cardboard type, just playing on your phone in a holster on your head. That's never going to be VR. But that it may open the door for a lot of people to say, I saw this amazing thing in a Google Cardboard thing. What's this other thing I could be doing? What's the next thing up from there?
yeah.
It's the same as when you went to the arcades and then were eventually I want that at home.
For me,
exactly.
I know that's going to happen in the next couple of years, but I think that's where VR will be in a couple of years. More people will be exposed to it in a way that means they can make an informed choice that it's not going to be 3D TV, because 3D TV was a product, whereas VR is not a product.
No.
Laser Quest is about to get a lot cooler, basically.
Well, it is in Australia with the Void, but
it looks incredible. You guys seen that?
Amazing.
No.
The Void? It's VR Laser Quest, basically. You walk around a warehouse.
It is VR Laser Quest. It's like a gamer's wet dream.
You walk around a warehouse in VR with guns in VR that you're holding, and
a 4D set.
You do stuff.
Wow.
You've basically got where the walls are in the game. There are walls.
Yeah.
So you can reach out and you can touch the walls that you can see. There's loads of kind of like haptic stuff. So like you'll have like tactile transducers shaking the room. There was the guy was describing a bit when I was watching a video where he was in this kind of this inside complex bit and he was walking about with his gun, and then he walked into an outside bit and he could see like the outside of this kind of alien planet, but because he was outside, suddenly he could feel this huge fan on him, he could feel this wind moving on him, and it's like totally changed the experience, like made him feel even more like he was in it. So
I saw something where some guy was like driving a car around. Did you see that?
No.
I don't know what it was. There was a guy driving a car around with a VR headset.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
No, but it was similar in that it was laying that stuff on top of like a real life context.
Yeah.
But it was like he was driving around in space or something.
I think we'll see more of that kind of thing in the next couple of years. I think the Void.
I'd love to see a go-kart sort of AR.
I think the
thing
Void is
where
potentially too expensive to make it work. I don't think we'll have a Void in every city in the next couple of years, but I think
it's not going to be the next mega zone.
But I think we might have one in London. We might have one in New York. We might have one in key locations around the world that you could go and do if you were there doing other stuff. And I like games to sit up and take notice, really, and stop producing the same shit over and over again and trying to do something a bit riskier. And I absolutely appreciate that. That's why they haven't done it. This is a bit of a side note, but I think it's relevant. I was lucky enough to be at the BFI on the south bank of the Thames last night, where a guy called Chris Milk was doing a talk about how he got into VR. So originally he did music videos. He's done videos for Kanye West and Beck. He did the Beck VR thing a while ago now. Yeah. And that opened the door to VR for him. And he said, one of the most beautiful things I've heard about VR, and this is what I would like to see, everybody who owns a headset should be doing this anyway, otherwise just sell your headset and give it to somebody who gives a shit. Whenever he has the opportunity, he goes around the world filming for his things, and he did the Syrian VR thing that he showed the UN and all the rest of it. And he's a lovely guy, really, really interesting fellow. But wherever he goes and films things, he takes his Gear VR, and he said that he was in Italy, just out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere, trying to explain to these Italians, and he doesn't speak Italian, what this thing was. And he put the Gear VR on them, and it was a guy in the 70s and his wife of about the same age. And he put it on them, and somebody who could translate came up, and the guy said, "There is a lot of bad in the world. This is good."
No.
And that was just fucking amazing. Gaming has such a bad rep for being the cause of all evil, and I'm sure the Daily Mail readers will be VR makes people blind and makes you impotent and makes you read the Daily Mail and all kinds of shit. But because it's not a product, it's an idea. There is a possibility for this to not just be another gaming thing. The bullet train thing for the Vive, I wish they hadn't done that, but I know they need to ship units. But I just like to see something more optimistic done with it. And I'd like gaming or gaming companies to try and spend a bit of time doing something like that.
Yeah. I remember the very, very first time I spoke about about using VR on this podcast, way back at the start when I just got the DK1, and I think that was the very last thing I said, that this is a beautiful piece of technology, and that's still how I think about it. It's enabling. It's just raw potential, essentially. And you're absolutely right that, like, at the moment, I think we're still struggling to get out of this pattern of just reimagining the same things over and over and over again and trying to fit them into new platforms instead of building for those platforms. But I think we're really lucky in that there are a lot of developers that are thinking outside the box for VR. There's a lot of very interesting.
I understand that it's a risk financially to put money into something that hasn't actually been proven that it's going to work.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky at work that we're in a position where we can do VR, and we will be doing it. But that's not the majority of people at the moment. That's it's a risk to be a VR developer, because you could spend the next year developing something and it all might go tits up. So it is a risk, but I hope in the next 2 years it can be embraced in the way that the PlayStation 1 was when that happened. I don't think it won't be embraced like TV in the next 5 to 10 years maybe, but I hope it just becomes the Daily Mail saying it's evil, it's 3D TV, it's going to warp your mind's heads, and everybody else is going, tried it, was great, can't afford it at the moment, don't have the time for it at the moment. When it's smaller, cheaper, I'm going to give it a go. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
So
No, that's a good place to leave it. This has been the Not Playing podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk, where you can also hear myself and Ian talk about movies and TV on the Not Watching podcast, and Adam, Ash and Will, not that one, talk about all manner of funny things on the Not Listening podcast. You can also let us know what we're doing right or wrong via email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, then please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya!
I suck at